Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, you can. Nice to see some friendly faces in the crowd. My name is Zohar, and I run the cloud product line for Checkpoint. Formerly the founder and the CEO of Dome9 Security that was just recently acquired by Checkpoint. Leading cloud strategy, and I'm going to walk you through some of what we see as the cloud problem and the cloud solution that we have to offer. And the big chunk of this presentation is going to be around how we leverage traffic analysis, consuming of audit events to get you clear visibility at what's happening in your public cloud environment. So when we talk about innovation and how we travel, when we dealing with public cloud only in so many ways, you think this is the only problem. This is the only problem that matters, and I agree with you. This public cloud is really the only problem that matters. But in so many ways, when we especially talk about enterprises, we also have traditional on-prem and on-prem environments that wants to be and wants to become like our public cloud. And we have SaaS applications that we consume from vendors. And if we talk about the security leader that needs to deal with all those, having or consolidating all these paths and dealing with and providing great security across all these paths is a real challenge. And really saying what is this term called cloud security and how is it not just one term, how it can mean different things for different people serving the same organization. Gartner, I think, gave us this great slide, which I actually hate, but we decided to put it anywhere to say that the shared responsibility means that we need to take a lot of a lot of action as the owners of the security, as the leaders of the security. And we can definitely leverage on AWS doing much more than traditionally in providing great tooling and great capabilities. And this is where a lot of the logic around orchestration of what's happening below the line, or how we fit the balance between what we do and what the provider does to provide us a robust model. Now, because of that shared responsibility, sometimes we didn't do our side of that, and we forgot to do what's needed. And at Dome9, probably 2016, end of 2016, this became something that you would see more and more on the press, and we were able to go out to the market and not needing to explain too much what we were doing. We were really providing you technologies to make you sure that your storage buckets or your database that may have been leaking data to the public cloud, or credentials that you forgot in a public source code repository, were creating an attack vector from your perspective. So today we probably hear about this in the news every 2 weeks, and it's not even news anymore, but it's a clear realization on the things we can do in order to improve our stamina, improve our stance, and let the bad guys deal with other people. When we talk about attack surfaces, we all know the network attack surface. This was the original one that we had. You know, Checkpoint is a firewall vendor for 25 plus years, invented that category, and it still exists in the cloud. The problem is that when we have our data assets and our compute assets, the network is not the only vector, it's not the only way to access them. Identity is a key issue. I can hack one of your head of DevOps laptops and get access to his or her identity, and then get access to great resources without doing any networking magic, without traversing any crazy firewall, just by social engineering them maybe to give me their credentials, or hacking their browser and sitting dormant until they log into their public cloud console. So identity is something that will be looming for many years to come as an attack vector. And it's something that public cloud introduced, and I give this example when I meet the traditional Checkpoint on-prem customers. Your control plane for your NetApp storage area network is secured in a very small management LAN, as they used to call it. Not anybody can access it from the outside. In the public cloud, when we talk about our storage, our databases, this control plane defines how they are setting up, how they're being accessed. This control plane is available through a public API, accessible from everywhere on your AWS IAM public APIs. Today, this control plane essentially defines how your environment is being set, and not just it not just sets things about your environment, but also accessing it is something that you need to take care of, and those things were not happening before. And there are many types of threats that could mess us with all those different vectors, and we know them. And when you can start making money by exploiting people that are not taking care of their data or compute assets, it becomes a business. And you are now dealing with over 1,000 cyber criminal organizations that are making money of either opportunistically or targeted getting access to your compute and data resources. So it's up to us to make sure that this will be clear. And this becomes a great data point by Gartner. Gartner is saying that 95% of cloud-related breach are going to be a result of customer mistake, customer fault. And they actually fixed that about 2 weeks ago to say 99% is going to be customer-related fault, meaning only 1% is real crazy hacking, science, rocket science type of an operation. And the other 99% is we forgot to tick a box, to check, to cross a T or dot an I, and therefore we got an issue. So how do we deal with network security when it comes to the CloudGuard product family? First, we look at what's coming in and out of the cloud from a network topology and connectivity. We have the cloud security blueprints, which essentially define how networks can interact internally and externally, how VPCs are paired between them, how applications are paired between them. Then we have a gateway technology that can essentially assess everything coming in and out of our cloud application, whether they're going out to the public internet or back to their corporate office, or between cloud, or God forbid, if you're using multi-cloud, it's also a big issue to deal with. And this is where protecting the network data plane comes into play. And what you see here is, okay, what happens after I got into the VPC? A VPC has many network constructs that can go wrong. You don't have to set up your security group properly. Why not use that free of charge environment capabilities that AWS provided this industry from day one, actually, to also deliver security inside the app and micro-segment, if you will, assets and compute elements between them. When we talk about identity, when we see identity has many ways. I can get access to your identity by impersonating a SaaS application login interface. But I'm going to focus on number 2, essentially, what happens if I hack your head of DevOps laptop? What will prevent me after he finishes his or hers 2-factor authentication into the Amazon cloud not to utilize that secure, trusted identity in order to encrypt our storage and then call you up for ransom? So we have a technology just for that. It uses a mobile application for out-of-band authorization, which essentially says, before you want to re-encrypt or rotate encryption keys, which is something that you don't do very often, or when you want to wipe a whole DynamoDB database, you need to essentially authorize yourself. Meaning that if somebody hacked my identity, they will not be able to do those high severity, irreversible actions like wiping data, wiping storage, encrypting data, and so forth. And the last piece of the puzzle is a lot of the identity-based attacks starts with phishing. We have a great anti-phishing technology that can protect SaaS applications, Office 365 and Google Apps from being used to essentially trick you into a phishing site that will look exactly like what you're doing. And the control plane, this new frontier that we have pioneered at Dome9 several years ago. So all the way from visibility to your security posture, the continuous compliance piece, which is today one of the most important pieces of our offering. Over 2,400 different security checks that are constantly being validated across your entire AWS and maybe other clouds stack for best practices, for security best practices. It's not just exposed storage buckets, but the reality of dealing with them in a central way and a policy-driven. And the last piece that's kind of what I'm getting into now is, okay, I've made sure that my posture is great. I have a great network security, front door and inside, compartmentalize my network properly. I took care of the identity problem, and I even took care of the posture problem. How do I make sure that what's happening now in my cloud environment is something that I can live with, something that makes sense? How do I know that what's happening now adheres to maybe the standards that I was sure that I'm deploying? And this is the piece that I'm going to expand on now. Just to go through, so these are the components of the CloudGuard family, and I really believe that when you come to your when you design your cloud security strategy for the years to come, thinking about point solution from a place when we were a point solution, realizing that it doesn't really scale, especially not when your environment spans multiple clouds and multiple environments. So what is logic? So we're 2 weeks ago we publicly launched CloudGuard Logic, which is essentially our play at big data analytics meeting public cloud security. Essentially transforming the network logs and the audit trails that I would argue don't provide too much value into something that provides a lot of meaningful, actionable, tangible value for you. And look at this. We at Dome9, and I have my co-founder and our CTO here with me, we were the first company to ingest flow logs. I think it was just before reInvent 2015, where flow logs were released, maybe 2014. We were the first company ever to ingest those in and build some value around it. And look at this. This is silly. This doesn't mean anything. I have a network interface. I have a source IP, a dest IP. How can I make a security decision based on this old type of source destination service log file? How do I know which one is that source? This is a private IP address. What was that in the minute of inception? So the story behind Logic is how we turn this into a meaningful story. Because this source IP and dest IP belong to entities that may have tags, that had an availability zone, they had an application associated with them. They were part of a much bigger puzzle that when you look at that silly string, you don't have. And today your SIEM systems, maybe Splunk, Sumo Logic, or whatever you use, are working a lot to try to make that transformation. And I would argue that 80% of your logs that you are ingesting coming from your public cloud environments go unanalyzed. You just ingest them, you pay the tax, and you just throw them out the window, and you cannot account for them. I would challenge you to challenge me and show me that you can account for more than 20%, and I'll lose my case. Trust me, more than 80% of your flow logs go unaccounted. And the reason is because you use containers, you use serverless, all those things, AWS just spring them in your VPC, they do their thing, and they disappear. The same IP address is being used by different types of entity. It could be a NAT gateway, it could be a Lambda, it could be a Fargate, it could be an AKS, it could be so many different things in a span of 1 hour that by the time it gets to your Splunk, you're clueless. And some of you we're not aware of that, but if you want to have network accountability in a single VPC, just let's make sure that what happens in this, let's say we have a VPC of 100 players, 100 moving parts. Let's say we want to have accountability totally just for that. I would show you that you cannot explain all your flow logs. And it's not your fault. This is how the system was designed. And another thing is that we get those semi-real time. We get them every 10 minutes out of the virtual switching fabric until AWS gives them to you. If you wait until that time to even do the correlation without keeping all the 10 minutes of history of what you had in your environment, you will lose it. And how we add this, which is now a great story that you can ask smart questions on, how you make this into this, how you understand what happened, how you know how you get that accountability that every packet, every connection in your network has a source. So how do we do it? So we built logic, which is essentially an enrichment engine. It takes different data sources, mostly VPCs, Flow Logs, CloudTrail. We're actually going to add, AWS announced a new database monitoring, activity monitoring stream. We're going to add that as well. We take the middle piece, the inventory and configuration, which is what we in Dome9 have and are updating on almost a high frequency, if you will. In some cases, under less than 5 minutes, we do a total refresh of your entire configuration stack, coupled with some thread feeds and geo databases that we have. We fuse it all together. We build this mega log out of this tiny log. We consult with Threat Cloud, which is Checkpoint big data cloud threat database that is feeding from over 68 billion events daily from hundreds of thousands of endpoints and devices that are spread around the world and sharing threat data and IP reputation and maliciousness of many, many kinds, and generate the outputs. And the outputs are first and foremost insights, things like visualization, exploration, threat hunting in real time on stuff that you have never seen before, and I guarantee that. Compliance violation notifications. Wouldn't you want to get a notification or an alert when your PCI environment starts sending connectivity, starts talking to somebody that is not in a PCI approved zone, or maybe to the public internet? Today, to do it on network flows, you have to do so many, you have to do so many superpositions on that data in order to see, is that a PCI tagged environment or not? With logic, I will show you in a simple network flow log from PCI environment should not talk to the public internet. And the minute this is violated, you can quarantine the instance, you can do so many more things, but this is something that you cannot ask your environments today. Get the intrusion alerts, and, which is a big part of the solution, now you can take this data after we made something meaningful out of it and feed it to your Splunk or to your big data systems and fire all you want to fire out of that. You have the ServiceNow, you have the playbooks, you have the SOAR, do it from there, but this will save you, not save you, this will give you access to something you didn't see before. And when we talk about that, and I'm going to show you some live examples now, but when we talk about completing the picture, I really think that this was a missing piece. And we developed it because we were selling you a solution up until now, and we knew that there was a missing piece. It's not that we were dishonest. We were analyzing those flow logs. We just knew that there's nothing much you can attest for them if you're containerized or serverless or using a lot of the AWS new technologies. So these are the main values of the logic piece. And this is how it looks in real time. So we have the visual traffic map. We see a complete environment, a complete region. And this is how the network flow logs essentially talk to your configuration or to your security posture. See, would you want to see the availability zone of a flow log that you have? Or if I can consolidate 10 flow logs into one because they were broken by the VPC just because of technicalities to multiple logs. You have the canned and custom queries that we curate for you, where you can say, you know, console login attempts for malicious IP addresses, or tell me where one of my lambdas is talking to a known malicious IP or talking to the outside world. My lambdas should not necessarily talk to the outside world without me knowing about it. And here you can see a glimpse of the enriched logs at the bottom. And this is how easy it is for you to operate as security practitioners the environment. VPC Flow Log where destination.malicious equal true. Only need to understand English to do that. You don't need any coding experience. You don't need to know SQL. You don't need to know anything. You just need some common sense that we are rightfully asking security practitioners to have. And this will show you all the assets in your environments that are talking to hosts that are known as malicious. But as you can see here, some of those assets are interesting. Some of them are not just instances with a static private IP. Some of them are actually interesting stuff. Now let's see where I'm actually initiating traffic to malicious IPs. This could be even more interesting. And we can see which ports am I using to initiate those connectivities. And obviously, this is an accept query. And this is probably where I show this to people in their live environment. And you can be up and running with this technology in under 15 minutes from the minute you decide. All you need to decide, you need to have read-only access to your, this is the credentials we need, and funnel some flow logs our way. And we'll be able to show you your lambdas and how they talk to the world. And it's not just the lambdas. This lambda could use 10 different private IP addresses in a span of 2 hours. This is something your Splunk cannot correlate even if you worked very hard for it to do so. And you get it out of the box. Same goes for your RDS elements. We can show you when your environment is talking to other AWS resources through the public interface instead of through the internal interface. And essentially, you get this 100% accountability of all the traffic that you had in that given time span. And it's great for threat hunting. It's great for other purposes as well. Having the crosses, see, 4 different IP addresses used by the same Lambda. Try me, see that, check your flow logs, check your consoles and what you have, what you are analyzing, VPC Flow Logs. And I would also argue this, you pay quite a bit of money to ingest those flow logs in your Splunk. Would you want to forward them, follow them to us, reduce them but enrich them, reduce the quantity, but enhance the quality of them, and then funnel it to your SIEM environment? And how does this all tie together? So from the network security piece, we have the CloudGuard IaaS, the virtual gateway technology that runs on AWS, of course, and the Dome9 network security piece. The identity protection, we have the CloudGuard product and the Dome9 IAM safety, the mobile activation, out-of-band authorization that I showed you. And for the cloud control plane, of course, the Dome9 compliance and governance piece. So this sends the attackers on their way, builds that virtual wall, and we have logic to sit in the environment. It's not sitting, it's virtually there, but essentially feeding off from the events in the environment and essentially letting you know that this defense that you've built in front of your cloud asset is intact. And if somebody needs, if we see a leakage, if we understand that something is wrong here, maybe it's a misconfiguration that we can fix with the compliance engine. And this is where my claim is that the value of the pieces when they tie together, because it takes the bad guy just one forgotten crack in a window that you forgot to close. They're not really after you, they're just after your misbehavior in the cloud so they can exploit you later on. Important to realize that. And just some of the vanity. This is some of the awards that we are proud of. And with that, if anybody has questions, please show them. Please, it's a great time to ask questions if you have. And if not, we have a live demo of Logic. You can see most of what I showed you here in live, on real data, and you can check us out right across the hall from here.
If anyone has questions, I can bring you the microphone. Anyone? Questions? Going once? Okay, I think we're good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zohar.